I've seen this probably peak in around 2006. I see that 09 should bring about a little bit more spotlight on this again, and what we have actually done, is it sufficient? So 2009 will give us some kind of indication whether the measures we took in 07 was enough for it. The technology that we have out there addressing phishing is going to be sufficient. 09 should give us some indication around phishing and its roadmap. Interestingly enough, a lot of people have been asking me if fake and misleading applications will be a big thing. I've always referred them to this. Wouldn't it be nice to know that the bag you buy is a real Louis Vuitton? And it's sometimes easiest to bring down the analogy to something physical that you can touch and feel. It's easy to see the workmanship around it, and you normally know that a really good bag that you buy can last a very long time, and it serves its purpose. And whilst with the software world, it's not easy to see it because it's not something physical you can touch and feel. It is something that over time, if you have bought something fake, it shows. It shows by its inability to cope with the load that you're putting through it, and it's also going to fail you on the times that is most critical. What we will see over this next few years especially is a lot of companies that will come out and say that we've got a cheaper version of this, or a less expensive version of this, a faster to install version of this. That's all fine and good, but what if you get on to the 6th month and you're actually running a workload or payload that's so high? Would it have been good to buy the cheaper one, the less expensive one, the faster to deploy one? You've got to look at it in the long-term view, the total cost of ownership. Beyond 09, and as we move on to the 2010s, what would be not the killer app, but the things that we need to look out for? I said advanced web threats would be one of them. The other one would be how do we reduce power consumption of those companies that have more than 500 PCs in them. With advanced web threats, I think that we've not seen the worst yet. I think most of the minds, the great minds around these things, are actually working on utilizing their capabilities around spam and phishing. And I think that there will come a point where they themselves will go through a consolidation where they will find out that there's so much more information on the internet than they realize, and that it's actually something that they could earn money out of. And at that point, we will find it. It will almost be a 9/11 of sorts on the internet when that comes through. The social networking is interesting. When you bring that together with organization and enterprises, it's a hard thing to validate or to disregard. I'm a user of some social networks and a disbeliever in some, that they're non-productive and they actually affect productivity in a big way. I think that if used the right way, I think if social networks enabled the right way, it can be done. It brings us back to the infrastructure that these social networks were placed on. The larger ones, the more stable ones with the larger users and backed by the right companies, usually have infrastructure that protects the identity of each person on that, and thus the security of using those kind of systems, right? But a user needs to be aware of these things. They cannot take for granted that just because something is a social net, that it is not going to result in identity theft, because the information that you put in at any time on the internet, if you do not know the basis of that security, that same identity can be used against you. And I mean as simple as someone's ability to look at your profile within a social network, set up a web mail and send off a mail saying, I am this person now. It's as easy as that. It could affect your character, or you could be sending it off as someone who works for an organization. It's quite amazing the things you could do with just a little bit of information. So social networks need to pay attention to the security systems that they've put in place to ensure that the information contained within them is not going to be taken by the wrong people. I don't think companies are trying to leverage on this. Social networks will find themselves vulnerable. I think they will find themselves unable to quantify the success of using it. I think at the end of the day, we all are guys and girls who need to put down the ROI, the return on investment. And I think that using the social network to determine that number, to a quantifiable number, is going to be really hard until such time you can actually identify that. Some companies can, maybe. I know of companies who are able to look at feedback forms and quantify whether in that week they were able to satisfy their customers. Now, how you use that towards a social network is, again, to each individual company.